Welcome to the Turning Points Podcast. My name is Sean, and my good friend and co-host Corrine and I are excited to be here with you. We decided to join this platform because we realized just how much we enjoy talking about the spiritual seeking process. We both love exploring the mechanisms and questions that motivate a person to begin a spiritual practice. And we look forward to interviewing experts and authors on their personal journeys, as well as individuals like us who just love discussing these topics. We are thankful you found us, so sit back and enjoy the ride. Hello, welcome to this week's edition of the Turning Points Podcast. This week, we mixed it up a little bit. Corrine had this very cool last-minute idea to, instead of doing a checkpoints with just you and I, that we invite one of your coaching clients on and have, I wouldn't say necessarily a coaching call, but a conversation with somebody who is in the coaching process. And it was really fun. It was cool to see some of the questions that, she has, being somewhat on a newbie on the spiritual seeking path and the meditation path. And I really enjoyed it. It was really inspiring.
Yeah, she showed up as she always does. I've known her for 3 or 4 years now. Lissa is, just really authentic and who she is. And she showed up vulnerable, and we had fun with her. I don't know, just kind of changed up the dynamic of the questions and of our interaction together and her. And I really enjoyed it. I'd even like to do it again sometime.
Absolutely.
Thought it was good. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a different approach. We kind of maybe take some different angles or different, ways of saying some of the things we talk about, but hopefully you enjoyed as much as we did.
Yeah. Welcome to our podcast, Lissa.
Hello. Glad to be here.
Yeah. I called you at 4:00 today. It's now 8:30. And I said, hey, you want to come and join Sean and I for a conversation on our Turning Points podcast? And
right.
You were like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, a session. I can always use a session. So straighten me out, you two. So give me some enlightenment.
So Lissa and I have been working together for, about 3 years. And she has come a very long way, and very happy to see where you're at in your life these days. And Sean has been thinking about doing some life coaching, and I think he'd be an awesome life coach. And so I just thought we'd do a little, conversation, kind of show people what I do, what we do, questions people ask, and because we're all the same. We all have the same, we're all human beings. We all have the same emotions. We all want to feel good and to be happy and to have a good, fulfilling life. And we all struggle. The struggle is real. Some of us struggle more than others, and we're all in this together. So let's just have a fun conversation, and, not too heavy, and just not, whatever happens, right?
Right.
You up for it, Sean?
Oh, I'm up for it. I'm just waiting. I talk too much, so I'm trying to let you guide this one.
No, I like it when you talk too much. I do.
Oh,
I like hearing your opinion, because it's you and Corrine. I guess, what I'm thinking right now is that I feel so low. No, it's not the right description, but so low on the totem pole compared to the guests that you guys have had on. I'm such a babe. I'm just, this is, the depth of me until I met Corrine was, take one day at a time. And that was like all I knew. I wanted to know how to meditate. I tried to meditate, but I just couldn't do it. And so, I'm just honored to be here today, because I think I have a long way to go. And, sometimes I think, well, gosh, I'm pretty darn old. I just turned 60, or I'm going to be turning 61. And it's like, why didn't I do this earlier? Why have I waited so long? Why have I waited so long, Corrine?
Because the pain was not was not enough. I mean, it's the same with me. I started on this path. I was younger. I was fortunate enough to be 27, but once I started meditating and getting on this path, I wish I had started much sooner. So we just come to it when we come to it. When we become a seeker, that's part of what our podcast is about, is why are we seekers? There's just something in us at a point in time, and it usually, but not all the time, has to do with pain. So yeah. And, we're all in this together. We all can recognize, there's no higher or low totem, as you said. I mean, that's something I'm learning. It's hard because we're so built in this culture to have that, to have people above. And so my prayer every day is above and beneath no one, immune to criticism, fearless in any situation. Right. So it is so, but yeah, you came to me because you wanted to feel better. And I did want to mention, you said you didn't know how to meditate before, but you do meditate now regularly.
Yes, I do. Mm-hmm. And, but it has been, quite a journey, and it's still some days, I don't know. One time I heard Sean say something about that you kind of had it down and you didn't feel like you really needed to do it as often because you just, and every time I do that, then things start to because I feel the same way too. It's like, well, I've meditated 2 days in a row for 3 weeks and I'm ready to go. So I'll take an afternoon off, and the next thing I know, it's an afternoon, then a morning. And so the discipline part of it keeps kicking me in the ass, because when I don't meditate twice a day, things just don't flow as well. And yeah.
Go ahead. No, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I was just going to say it's hard to make that time, because I'm a doer. So
I am as well. I have a lot of doers in my family. It's hereditary for me to just do and be busy. And so I relate to that. It's hereditary. I never thought about that. I didn't think so either until I really got deep into the self-inquiry journey.
Really?
Oh yeah. I mean, I never recognized that about myself, but I've always been a busybody, to the point where I can get some momentum going and get a hell of a lot of work done and not get anywhere. And a lot of that is due to, my relationship with my meditation practice, where the wheels don't come off right away when you stop meditating and get out of your practice. It took a couple days. Like if I meditated consistently, and I took a couple days break, it'd be okay. If I got right back onto my practice, I'd be fine. That third, fourth day is same thing that you're talking about. It's just, and it's not necessarily that the day goes worse or things are, more problematic. It's not like people are less kind to you. It's that the practice reinforces what you focus on. That's what I've discovered is the practice helps you maintain focus on awareness, on the present moment. And the further you get away from that awareness in that present moment, from my experience, the more you start creating more problems for yourself, because you're focusing more on problems. You're focusing more on the stress, lack, you name it, whatever your poison is, you're going to start to focus on that instead of the awareness that meditation allows us to focus on.
Right. Exactly. That's what I was going to say.
I wasn't going to say it until I said
it. That's awesome. I love it. Yeah, we all have different ways of articulating what meditation does for us. For me, it was a lifeline for me. I mean, it cured my stomach ulcer within the first day of learning how to meditate. And within the first couple of months, I decided to go to school to become a massage therapist. I'd been a starving musician for many years, and I was struggling in Nashville. It's one of the reasons why I had the ulcer. And I had an aha during one of those step classes we used to do, step workout classes. I had this aha. I had just gotten a massage, and I was like, I've been getting massage since I was like 16, and I loved massage. I'd never ever thought about becoming a massage therapist, but it was like a light bulb. And it was exactly 2 months. I'd been meditating every day, twice a day for about 2 months. And it was like, just like, you need to be a massage therapist. You love connecting with people. People always ask you to give massages. You make really good money. Duh. And I was never broke again. I mean, I was a starving musician. Well, I wasn't a starving musician until I moved to Nashville. I was a perfectly wealthy musician until I moved to Nashville, making lots of money. But once I moved to Nashville, couldn't make a living in music anymore. And I went to massage school and that, so I just feel like I got clarity. And because it cured my ulcer, I didn't have the struggle that you two have had. With the consistency, right? You two have kind of gone back and forth and had this, kind of thing that that's more common than my experience is that, I've done it twice a day for 3 weeks now. I don't need to do it anymore, And what I tell people when they say that to me is like, well, when you have a really good sleep, does that mean you don't need to sleep the next night?
Exactly.
Good point.
Yeah.
And so, but for me, because it cured my ulcer and my tummy would burn in the middle of the night if I didn't meditate that second time. I was living with a guy who meditated twice a day. I eventually started working with my meditation teacher at his company for a couple years. And then I went on that 30-day silent retreat. So I had so much support in that first 2 years that I was meditating. And then that's why I created these yoga meditation studios. This is my second one now that I have at Ivy House because of the support. I know how important the support is for this because it is a big change to meditate twice a day, every day. We don't value it in our culture.
And that's why it's good to have a life coach or a meditation coach or someone because like for me, I mean, I'm the freaking Lone Ranger doing this in my network. I even got dissed by my brother for the first time. He was up here visiting me. And of course, he wanted to go to a bar and I've quit drinking pretty much. And because I just physically can't drink anymore, which is good because I don't know if I ever would have quit drinking if my body hadn't said, done, can't have no more. But, we're sitting in there and I said, I need to go out to my car and meditate for 20 minutes, with Corrine in the background. You need to get your afternoon meditation in. And I said, okay. And he goes, no, it's not okay. I mean, and I was like, what? It's not okay. So it's like and then my husband, he's kind of a redneck and he's supportive, but he's more like, oh, honey, have you meditated today? Are you having a bad day? Have you meditated? Not, I get, he doesn't understand. Yeah. I mean, he understands, but he's just catering to me, he thinks, because he doesn't need it.
But that's okay. You don't need, it's about your journey. It's not about his journey. And when we start meditating, it's not about getting everybody around us to meditate, because that's the first thing we want to do. Anytime we find something we love, hey, because I'm a person that gets on a bandwagon, so I get it. We want everybody around us to be this happy. But, he's shown and I tell people that the biggest way to get somebody to meditate, if you want them, is just for them to see the change in you over time. So, Sean's wife is not interested in meditation at all. She's seen and not at all. And that's okay. And so he's come to that. There's been times where it's probably bothered him a little bit that she's not on the same kind of journey but now he's totally at peace with it. He can share more about that. But it is a solo journey. We come into this life alone. We're born alone and we die alone, and we have many companions along the way and loved ones and family. And we have this journey, but it is a solo journey. This is a journey about us. And so I think it's awesome that he says to you, oh, you're having, have you meditated yet? He notices your mood. I mean, I think that's awesome.
Yeah. So I guess my point was just that it is nice. I'm excited to go on this. I'm going to go on my very first silent retreat. I'm so excited to be with other people that are doing it because I just haven't been in really very many group things, maybe one or two. And so I'm really, it's nice to talk to you guys because it makes me just kind of reassures me that, I'm not the only one trying to do this, and I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Oh, no, you're fine. No, I mean, I completely relate to that. Not having, the not necessarily people on the same page, but but people with the same value system spiritually, what you're struggling with, your husband might be more patronizing you with meditation instead of actually being supportive. That was the experience I had with my wife, and actually still do. She'll just call it wasting time. She's very blunt about it, where, I'm like, I need to go meditate, or I'm going to go meditate. And it's just like, oh, you're going to go take a nap. Like, she's really, now granted, we have a very brutal comedic, relationship. So we can have fun with that now, but not early on in a relationship. It was very difficult. And my family's, very Christian based. So, well, why don't you just go to church? I'm like, well, I meditate every day. That's kind of my interaction with my higher power, system. They still don't really get it, and it's, so I can relate very much to that experience. And I'm excited for you to go into that environment where you can find people that are, just have that same gravity and value to meditation. And when we do yoga together, it's a lot different than just doing yoga by yourself. There's this group consciousness that happens, and I'm really looking forward for you to have that experience, because I've had them and they're wonderful. So
thanks. That's interesting. That's what your wife says to you, because that's what my mind says to me.
Yeah.
When I sit down as a woman, a doer, you're wasting time. You could be doing this, you could be doing that, oh, this might make you sleepy and blah, 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 whatever, all these, as you know, the bazillion thoughts going through your head. So that's interesting. But yeah, I mean, that's what I felt in the very beginning. Now I don't feel like that anymore. Now it's like an escape. It's like, God, please, I gotta go meditate so I can just calm, just get some peace. Because it's just, this world nowadays is so much noise. And plus, my husband's the one kind of person who likes to have a TV in every room. His setup is a TV there, a TV in the kitchen, a TV in the living room, and 2 iPads. Why he has to have 2 iPads, I don't know, and a phone. And he's like the most non-technical person you'd ever know. So anyway, it's just noise. It's
too much input, right? And
for me,
that's what's, fortunately, I was in my early 20s when I got on this self-inquiry path, and maybe before that, but when I really started noticing that about the environment, noticing how much just noise and chatter and just sound, and it's interference, and it's, if you're not glazed over and just kind of mesmerized by it, and you're awakened to what is happening, it can be very, very depressing almost. It drowns out yourself, right? It makes you feel like you can't even think, you can't be, because there's too many things trying to get you not to be and just subscribe to whatever is happening around you. And that is exactly why you should meditate, because it's going to be really good for you to maintain that practice.
Yeah, I think it's almost more important now than ever.
Yeah.
Right, Coach?
Yeah. I mean, and yet it is not a magic pill, as we have discovered.
No, you're right.
What I say is it gives us the capacity to deal with our life and the issues that come up, and life that comes up, whatever comes up and shows up in our life. It gives us the capacity to deal with it face on, instead of either, pushing things under the rug or not saying things, or, whatever it is that it is our go-to to avoid things. It gives us the capacity to deal with things. So, but we still have to do the work. So what is the work? So that's different for everybody. For me, the work was a lot of books. When I was in my 20s and 30s, I always had 5 or 6 books. Actually have 5 books sitting right here on the go. And I have Audible that I listen to now. So I've always got 5 or 6 books. I got podcasts going. I'm always listening and learning. Going on retreats. Like, I'm really excited that Lissa's coming to the Alea retreat in May with us, Sean.
Oh, nice. I didn't realize that's the retreat you're going on. Fantastic.
Isn't that awesome? Sean's still contemplating coming to the one in August. The second one, I'm going to the one in August as well. So he's thinking about, he still has not signed up. So
No passive aggression there. Did you notice? Did you get that little wink from her?
Yeah, so I did a lot of retreats. So that was also my work. I hung out with a lot of people that were on the same path as me. You know, I had my first yoga studio in 1998. I opened on Music Row in Nashville called House of Bliss, and that had a community there. So a community is really great. That's why people like to go to yoga classes, because it's the community that they love, and that's why we have the community here at Ivy House. That's why I think people of all ages are drawn here to Ivy House, because of the community, the like-minded community that we have here. So it was like because I'm a musician, and I don't know, but I think in terms of frequency these days, and I know some people can't relate to that. Don't know if you guys can, but you know, like there's a certain frequency at Ivy House when you walk into it that is light. Y'all, you ever notice that? Either one of you, both of you?
Oh, yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
It's
Totally.
Yeah. Sean gets totally.
I'll tell you some stories in a little bit about that, but yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
he gets pretty blown out of the water every time he comes to Ivy House. But yeah, but you can cultivate that in your own space too. But it's, you know, it's a lot of meditation here. It's, you know, positive music that I have going on here, incense, bells, chanting music. I mean, it's kind of like all of it that creates it. And it does feel different when I go out and drive around Nashville, or I go to somebody's house, or, you know, whatever it is, I do feel a difference. So it's utilizing whatever tools work for you. There's a lot of different tools that work for people. I kind of use them all. It's kind of been my thing my whole life. That's why I feel like I'm a good sort of guide or life coach or spiritual coach, because I feel like I've tried so many and read so much, and I feel like I can help cut the fat a little bit, and so I can intuit into maybe what is for somebody, because not everybody is going to like the same books. Not everybody's going to want to go on the same retreats. Not everybody's going to want to do yoga. You know, everybody, you know, different personalities are drawn to different things.
So, okay. Don't want to have any dead air here.
Oh, no, you're
Right.
fine.
Oh, you said you can edit it, right?
Yeah, but
Okay.
it's no problem. I was just waiting for your response because I didn't want to talk over you. So no worries.
No, talk over me. Go.
No, and I think that is, you know, spot on. And, you know, I've had a different approach to, I guess, finding what works for my space. You know, I don't read at all. I'm actually very not well read, which has been hilarious and, you know, great, because when we're in an interview, Corrine can pull so much of her reference library of this is from that, this is that, and it's wonderful to have. I've more been very chaotic and sporadic and just thrown myself into mental suffering and exhaustion in a lot of ways, to the point where it burns me out. And I think Corrine has talked about, and I think this is somewhat of a common theme, is you have to get tired of yourself. You have to get tired of yourself maybe before you make really big changes, or like you talked about in the beginning, Corrine, where the pain is so strong that you just know you have to do a course correction or find something that's going to start to heal that pain instead of just living in that pain. So I've just taken a lot of variety of paths to find as much of that, you know, internally, because my life is I haven't really had to struggle that much in my life outwardly, but inwardly I've had just an onslaught of, you know, bullshit that I can create. I mean, I can create problems for myself as well as anybody else, you know, and so that's been more of my journey, is figuring out where my self-sabotage is, where are the things in my life through incredible introspection, where are the things and where are the patterns that I'm just like, man, I really don't want that pattern anymore. That pattern isn't serving me. It doesn't seem to serve anybody else. Also, where did this pattern come from? Have I been actively perpetuating this out of awareness, or is it just something I've done? You know, so that was kind of my process, is peeling away the layers, you know, very aggressively and very in a chopped kind of method. So, and it's all good. That's, I think, what I'm trying to getting at is like, it's everybody's path is kind of different in that regard. And, the fact that you're even here and the fact that you're having this self-inquiry process that started for you as recent as it may be, it's, from my perspective, the most noble thing you can do in your life is get on a self-reflection, self-inquiry journey and start figuring out and looking at yourself deeply and intimately. And when you do that for a long enough period of time, it's very transformative. So thank you for being on that path for yourself.
Well, you're really sweet, but I got to tell you, a lot of times I feel like a total fraud. Like, I'm just not getting it. I'm just not getting where I think I should be. And, I just keep working. I have my good days and my bad days, but yeah, I mean, I think this is what I'm supposed to be doing, but, is it self-centered or is it we had this discussion, Corrine, about, it's not self-centered to take care of yourself. It's
the big self. It's selfless. Like, it's not selfless, because that's when we, but it is the opposite of self-centered. I mean, ultimately we're here for ourselves. That's what we're here with. We're the first person we look at in a photo of 20 people, of even people we love, your children. The first person you look at in a photo is you. You're born, I said it before, you're born alone, we die alone. This life is about you. So to know yourself, all religions say know yourself. And we do know ourselves, sort of, but we don't know ourselves clearly. We don't know, and that's what this self-inquiry path is about, is knowing ourselves clearly. What makes us tick? Why do we say, I think I'm on the right path? I don't know. I might be why would I even say that? And my as a reflection back as your coach, I would say, well, you value doing. You value doing. And so when you're doing and accomplishing, you feel like you're able to take a breath and take up space on this planet, right? You have to prove your worth. And ultimately our worth is gold at the moment we're born and take our first breath. We don't have to do or accomplish anything in life, but just be who we are. And finding out who you are is the greatest gift. Who you are clearly is the greatest gift you can give the planet, because when you're walking around with a frequency of resonance and love and compassion and acceptance for yourself and acceptance for others and sharing your gifts and not having this dissonance of self-doubt and jealousy and comparison, that's what causes a dissonance in the atmosphere and causes problems in the world. It starts with you clearly knowing yourself and creating a frequency of peace and love that first of all helps you and then emanates on the whole planet and certainly everybody you come in contact with. When I walk into a store, it's been happening to me for over 20 years since I started meditating. I'll walk into a store in the middle of nowhere and the clerk will just be, you look so peaceful. It's happened to me so many times.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's cool.
Well, and I feel that sense of feeling like a fraud, because when you start questioning anything about yourself, it's hard to see clearly, because from my experience, it's been, well, I'm just pretending to be the spiritual person now because I'm not a spiritual person. This is the first time I'm trying to be spiritual, so I'm faking it. I'm pretending. Well, yeah, to a certain degree, you are putting on a new persona. The difference is that in this questioning, you're trying to discover who it is that you really are. And perhaps in the argument, and Corrine, check me on this next part that I might be saying, we're more of a fraud the longer we go without having that self-reflection journey, because we're operating from conditions and patterns that either our environment taught us to do or our parental units created in us, or traumas that we've been through have all cultivated this immediate reaction to all of life's situations. And it's a safety reaction. It's a lot of that fight or flight response. That's all caused from conditioning. When you start acting from that space of awareness in the present moment, it seems very out of resonance with all of that other stuff, because it is. Because all that other stuff is not in sync with the present moment. When you act out of a trauma, you're acting out of the past, something that's happened to you, and you're perpetuating that trauma. That's the fraudulent behavior. When you're a doer and all you know is, I need to make this much a month to be this valuable to this amount of people in my life, this is what I do. I'm acting out of my hereditary programming, my training. That's something that's big in my family, is do as much work as possible. That's how you create value. Well, that's not really me acting genuinely. So our traumas, our patterns, and our programming is actually the fraudulent parts of ourselves. It just doesn't feel like that because we're so comfortable with those parts of our being.
Right.
So I relate to that feeling, but keep peeling that away and see how much more genuine you start to feel as you inquire about that person having that experience of, am I real? Am I being a fraud? Am I fake? We're all fake in a lot of ways until we start getting really, really real with ourselves. And you're doing that. So.
Right on.
That's
a little
beautiful,
help from
Sean.
my friends.
Yeah, we all need it. Like I said, community is a big part of this journey. Otherwise, my father passed away. Gosh, it'll be 2 years ago in July already. Seems like yesterday.
Wow.
And he lived alone. His second wife died over 25 years ago. And so he lived alone, and he was alone with his thoughts and his mind, and he had a pretty negative mind. And it got better for a while because he read some of the books and he would meditate a little bit. But then after a while, after being alone, he was just left alone with his thoughts. And gosh, that's a scary thing for most people, And so that's what it is all about, is knowing yourself, knowing your thoughts, and what is the conditioning. And Sean, that was so beautiful. I loved how you explained all of that. It was really, really good. That, and even you, Lissa, bringing that up, feeling like a fraud. I mean, I think you're seeing, to be brave enough and clear enough to say that is awesome. Like a lot of times when we have our calls and you're like, you'll be like, well, I just have to tell you the truth because I'm not going to lie to you. And it's something small, like I didn't meditate for a week or whatever, and I'm just like, yeah, I mean, that's awesome. Thanks for being honest and brave and noticing and being able to notice what's going on inside you. That's what this is all about. What is it going on inside of me, and what do I do about it? And ultimately, it's like the self-discovery path. Like, the meditation helped me with my personality for sure, because it helped the ulcer, that's me from having anxiousness of not, being a struggling musician in Nashville, most likely, and all that goes with that. being an illegal alien. I was an illegal alien from Canada for many years too. That caused the ulcer too. And so at first it's like there's this desire to wake up from suffering and to have less pain in our lives and to have more of an enjoyable life. And that certainly was my journey, for the first few years. And then it became more. It became a journey of, well, who is it that has these emotions and these thoughts? And how am I able to notice the emotions and the thoughts? And then I started to listen to some of these non-dual teachers, Eckhart Tolle and Byron Katie and Ramana Maharshi, where I live in India. And they started talking about what's called as more of the non-dual path or the direct path, which is basically there's a screen of consciousness in all of us that is the same screen of consciousness in all of us. It's like the clay, we have I have a beautiful set of dishes downstairs and they're all made from the same clay, but one looks like a cup and one looks like a saucer, but it's the same clay. So we all look separate, but there's a screen of consciousness behind our eyes that's listening to us right now, listening to me right now, that's looking out of our eyes, that is untouched, whether we're happy or sad. It's unchanged from when we were young. And the same awareness in me is the same awareness in you, as in Sean, as in everybody. So if the infinite exists inside me, it can't be a different infinite inside each of you.
It can't be a different infinite inside of you than it is in me. Right. It's infinite.
It's
so
infinite.
We're all connected.
So we're all connected.
That's a cool feeling, right?
Well, it is.
The safety.
It definitely is. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what it becomes, at least has become for me. The last, really it feels like always, but I feel like I've been recognizing it more the last 10 years. And certainly Sean has been more, since the podcast. And as we talk to a lot of people that are into this discussion, and, it's fun because then there's an awesome teacher I love to listen to. Sean has listened to too. His name is Rupert Spira. And he says that the qualities of this awareness that's within us, that's infinite, is unconditionally, unlimited, and unconditionally fulfilled. Unlimited and unconditionally fulfilled. And so when we start living life from that knowingness, then it doesn't matter what we do. That's what all these non-dual teachers say, or the ones I listen to. They're like, well, what do? You just love and then do whatever you want.
Yes. And that is really hard for people like perhaps you and me who need an activity to validate that relationship. Because that's been my experience is, well, that's great. And I agree with that. And it's taken me a long time to realize this whole part of the self-inquiry journey and the self-discovery journey I was looking at so much of the things that I didn't want to be. I was looking at so much of them to the point where that's all I was looking at. I was looking at all the things that I wanted to get rid of and I didn't want anymore. And in doing so, I was just keeping them closer. All these patterns that were not really who I was, that aren't really a part of the, present moment. That's where my focus was, instead of focusing on the present moment of awareness, in that infinite awareness, into that unconditional, and say it one more time, I forgot those three words.
Yeah, unlimited and unconditionally fulfilled.
Fulfilled space. I was looking at the conditioned, parts of myself, and I was focused, all right, today I'm going to tackle and I'm going to spend all my time getting rid of this thing I don't want anymore. So I'm going to focus so much time and so much energy and so much of my attention on this thing that I don't want anymore. And as I'm doing that, it just becomes more and more sticky. It maintains because I'm maintaining it with my focus and my awareness. And, you know, it seems really simple, and I think it is a simple practice, but it's a practice that takes a lot of repetitions. Is when you have this feeling of, am I being fake? Am I, you know, being a fraud in this? Is this all really not who I am? Just putting that on the shelf for a second and just letting it be what it is in that moment. Don't wear it. Just put it down for a second. Don't contemplate it. Don't try to validate it with an experience. Don't try to validate it with an activity, and don't validate your existence because of that or whatever. Just put that down for a second and meditate for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and bring your attention back into that space that you've experienced in meditation. And that will start separating you from those experiences of that ultimately are not going to serve you. I mean, it's not going feeling fraudulent and fake about the self-inquiry process probably isn't going to help you as much as focusing on the awareness in the present moment, right? I think.
Right. Well, I have a lot of respect for you because you're young, a lot younger than me, about 30 years younger than me, probably. No, you're 34, right?
Yes.
34. Okay, and I'm 61. So when I was your age, I was like you, but to even try to do any kind of self-awareness or anything like that, I don't even know if I could have at that point in my life, with children and having to make a living. And now I'm at the point in my life that I don't have to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
And now it's like, who am I? What am I doing? Of course, I want to go, what have I done? But that's worthless. But I just have a lot of respect for you doing this, because I was a terrible mother, because I was so in my mind, in my head. I couldn't even see when things were happening to my kid. Like one of her coaches was mentally abusing her, making her go out and pick up pine cones with a pitchfork, things like that. And I was just so worried about me. What am I doing? How do I look? Am I going to make it in the music business? Blah, blah. I was so far from being aware, and I have regrets about that. So, but I just have a lot of respect for you doing that, because to me, it takes like a lot of I don't know if self-discipline is the right word, Corrine, but I mean, I just have a lot of respect for the effort that you're even putting into this at this point in your life. It would be much easier for you to just ignore it and just push forward like a train and then fall apart when you're my age.
And, yeah. And I think I felt the same way as you do about that. I think I felt that it would be easier. But I also was really lucky. I was really lucky because I've had a lot of great people. And Corrine, in a lot of ways, has been there for a very long period of time in my spiritual inquiry journey. But the funny thing is, what I think really instigated the process heavily was when I found out I was pregnant with our first son. No, I wasn't pregnant. We were pregnant.
I love how you said that, though. That was awesome.
I definitely was not. My wife was pregnant.
No, my husband got pregnant with me. We ate a pint of Ben & Jerry's each every night, and he gained so much weight. Yeah. He's never lost it.
So I went the opposite way. I was so terrified because I was a young father. I was 23.
Oh yeah, that's very young.
Terrified me to the point where I was like, how the fuck am I going to raise somebody else when I don't even know who I am? And that was like kind of one of those turning points. That trigger for me was like, oh God, I got to figure out who I am, because, in my mind, that doer mind where I was like, I had to have everything figured out. I have a little bit of a control freak. I needed to know how to parent from day one till year 18. I needed to fill that whole gap, and I needed to know the whole thing. as quick as possible. And that really struck me hard. But it has been a really tumultuous experience for me. You only know me from the podcast over the last 3 or 4 months, 6 months.
Right.
That is not how the first 95% of my inquiry journey has been. I almost got divorced twice. You know, I was in the music industry too. Went through so much shit attached to, I won't even get into that, but I appreciate that. And I thank you. I do feel very thankful that I have had that experience at a young age, but up until very, very recently, I think I felt a lot of the same way you did, where it's like, man, look at these people that have been on it for an extremely long period of time. What's interesting about awareness and having a really deep relationship and connection with awareness is you don't have to be intimate with awareness for a really long time to create any kind of a value. The value is in finding that awareness every moment. That's the value, is that relationship and understanding that I can choose awareness right now. And I don't have to compare that with somebody who's been finding awareness right now for 30 years. It's finding that same awareness. It's the same practice. It's the same process. And you're connecting with the same infinite screen of consciousness that exists in everybody. That's available to everyone all the time. The only thing that devalues you is your thoughts, your programming, and your patterns that tell you that you're not of value in that. So if you can bypass that, you're in that awareness. That's the practice. But thank you. But I also honor you, man. You're on it now. So same boat, same page, same conscience, same awareness, man. It's all the same. And the practice is really letting go of all the things you're really not. That's been my, as Corrine knows, very, very difficult process. So keep on it.
Yeah, the letting go seems so hard, but it should be so easy, but it just seems so hard. But it's like I'm making all these things much harder than they need to be. You know, I kept telling myself all day today, you know, what?
Welcome to the club. Sean and I have both done that most of our lives.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I'm expecting, what I'm hoping for. You know, I didn't go into this going, you know, I just want pure joy. I just wanted to quit being afraid all the time and quit being such a control freak. My poor husband, you know, I tried to control everything because I didn't want anything to go wrong. But yet we were in situations that we created that there was no way to avoid things going wrong. So, you know, it was a no-win situation. So the trying to accept every day, trying to be accepting with how I'm feeling at that day, making choices that are going to make me happy. That's a whole new road for me. It was always choices that, you know, what am I going to get for this choice? And what am I going to get for this choice? Instead of what's going to make me happy. And which there comes the, well, gosh, is it all about me? And then that whole fraudulent ideal type thing come in, you know. So
it's always about you anyway, whether you're living life from that, what you're calling as reactive mode is, I'm going to do this to get that. That's about you too. So why is it any more about you to know yourself?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah. All the choices we all make every day are for us to be happier, to, you know, have a good meal, to connect with someone we want to. It's all for us anyway. If you happen to have a family, you're also making choices for your family, but it is about you too. So there's the self-inquiry path is really no different. And, you know, you get it when you get it. Everybody that I know, including myself, when you start to wake up to this, you wish you would have seen it earlier. You just get it when you get it, and you can't go backwards. Of course, we know that. And it's like we have to have that contrast for whatever reason. you needed that contrast, and there was you needed to live life the way you did up until, when you know better, you do better. You have regrets now because you're the person you are now. And looking back, the Lissa you are now would have raised Sage differently. Right.
Oh, I would have been more aware of what was actually going on.
Right. But you weren't who you are. You're who you are now. But if you went back to the Lissa that was back then, you'd make the same choices because you don't know any different. Right? So that's what happens when we look back with regret. We look back with our knowingness now, which doesn't make any sense because we are who we are because of those mistakes, because of those things that we did that we would know. When we know better, we do better. We know better now, we do better now. So that's why regrets are so mute point, because we make the choices we make, we do the best we can from where, and that's what we have to realize, everybody's doing that. And as soon as you see that you did that, you made the choices because of how you were raised and where you came from and your conditioning and where you were at in life. Now you do better from where you're coming from now. You realize that everybody else is doing that too. So the idiot neighbor that you think is an idiot neighbor doing something, they're just conditioned and they're where you were 10 years ago or whatever. So once you realize that for yourself, then you can have more compassion, both for yourself and for everybody else.
And may I ask, how's your relationship with your daughter these days now?
Well, if it tells you anything, she's going to school to become a therapist. So...
But you're very close to her.
No, we're very close, and almost like not in a healthy way. I mean, we talk. I mean, I don't think we should talk every day like we do. We talk every day, but she's got issues with relationships, and she's got other issues that she has. I'm convinced because of the way that I raised her, or what she saw me doing. I see a lot of her in me. But no, we're close.
Not all about you, Lissa. Her life is not all about you.
Right. I know.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I guess that was not the right way to say it.
No. I mean, that's a typical, you guys are close, I guess. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you two are close. And mothers and daughters, it's an interesting relationship. There was a time in my life when I talked to my mom every day. My mom and I have always been very close. And so I think that's a beautiful relationship. My sister is super close to her daughter. My BFF is, used to be, and up until her daughter was 20, super close to her. So, it can be a beautiful relationship, that you're there for her, that she can tell you anything. That's awesome. Especially because you've been on such a journey and you can give her some wisdom now.
Yeah. And we are sharing, a lot of, I share a lot of what I'm doing with her and everything. I mean, I guess I'm 100% honest with her. So, yeah.
Well, and you can only say sorry so much until you actually have to start forgiving yourself too. I mean, that's kind of the mechanism I mentioned where it's, focusing on all the things I wanted to change just kept my attention on the things I wanted to change. That's kind of the same. The principle, you can choose to focus on the things that you think you might have done that ruined her upbringing, or you could focus on, well, I can't change anything I've done pre this awakening of experience. So now when I have conversations with her, I can focus on bringing this state of awareness into those conversations. And it's a simple shift. The hard part is the practice of refocusing on that new thing. But again, are you going to spend your time focused on the things you regret, or are you going to spend the time forgiving yourself and then focusing on how to be more present in this current moment?
Right. And it's totally my choice. But my mind is used to going that direction. So I got to get it to. But you say that you kept wanting to change things about yourself. Was it habits, or was it attitude, or was it beliefs? Were you always trying to change?
A lot of
young age.
A lot of it was beliefs. I had a lot of confusion about beliefs. Belief structures didn't make sense to me. Religion didn't make sense to me. I was kind of fucked up with that. I have some alcoholism in my family, so some of my relationships I didn't find out until I was adult that some family members were alcoholics, and it made me question all of the experiences I had with them through my high school or whatever. And I didn't really know how to process it. And then once I started forgiving them, it started making me question who I was because of those situations. So there's just a lot of programming. I watch people. I'm an observer in a lot of ways. So I was watching those relationships and seeing what was in my family that I didn't want to perpetuate, but seeing how it was perpetuating in this generation through me, some of the tendencies I was living with. And one of the biggest problems that I think I've struggled with is an imbalance of empathy, dysfunctional empathy. Corrine and I, we've kind of talked about that over the last year, really is kind of where that came to front, where I think it's good and it's beneficial to be empathetic. And I think it's a symptom of inviting more awareness into your life. Compassion and empathy become, symptoms where, like Corrine just mentioned, where, you look at somebody at their point in their life and you're like, I can't judge you right now. I can't judge anybody anymore because I understand what it might feel like to be stuck or not even know I'm stuck. I know what that feels like now. So I'm going to give them the grace of just trying to bring some of that awareness into their life now. And the dysfunctional empathy from my end came when I tried to take responsibility for everybody else's experience in life. I would sacrifice my own well-being so they could have my idea of happiness. And when you put it that way, it seems like, well, your idea of happiness, it was always my idea of happiness that I was projecting onto them. And I was sacrificing and sacrificing and sacrificing, and that built resentment because I wasn't actually being empathetical. I was being empathetical, trying to fill something in myself by giving to others and letting myself go for others, to the point where all that came out of that in most situations was they weren't happy because how could they be? I was projecting a version of happiness onto them. I wasn't being authentic at that point because I was bending who I was for them, for their comfort. And when I realized that they weren't receiving the real me, I built resentment. So it was all about other people, but it was really just about me self-sabotaging over and over and over again. So once I started to see those patterns, and I say I see them, I know that they're patterns now, but at the time I was caught in these loops. I was just stuck in these loops of, well, if I just do it one more time, maybe it'll be different, and that's insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And that was also me realizing I haven't been genuine most of the time. So when I felt like I wasn't being genuine, I wanted to stop being not genuine. So I would focus on, okay, I'm not going to be not genuine anymore. I'm not going to be not genuine anymore. I'm not going to be not genuine anymore. What's going to happen? I'm going to be not genuine anymore. I mean, it's just that cycle that's the pattern of the mind that you talk about, is like, yeah, that is how powerful the mind is, and it's sticky, and it wants those comfortable patterns, and it doesn't give a shit about whether or not it's a healthy pattern or it's comfortable. And that's a tough road to go, but it's worth going, because be a little uncomfortable now, you'll be a hell of a lot more comfortable later.
Yeah. I could see that I did that. I've done that throughout my life too. So something kind of similar, just not being authentic. And that's where I'm at right now, is like, if I'm going to continue to do music, I want to be authentic instead of just trying to, you know how it is when you move to Nashville. It's like you try to do what everybody else is doing. You try to fit in, and, but now the music business is just so different. So it's like, and I don't really have to do it. So why am I doing it? And how can I be authentic? I want to do it because I love doing it. But, as Corrine and I have talked about, it's like, I have to figure out what I actually enjoy doing and that kind of stuff. It's like, really? You're 61 years old and you don't even know what you really enjoy what you enjoy about music when you've been doing it for 40 years,
Well, that's being authentic right there, because what you enjoyed 10 years ago and even what you enjoyed last week about music isn't what you're going to enjoy this moment. It's rediscovering and opening with that's what beginner's mind. So I'm curious how your gig, I want to stay in touch with you because she's got a gig coming up Friday. This place hired her to play every other Friday night. And I'm excited for you and I hope that you go and, like we had talked about this, play what you want to play the sets how you want to play them. Don't do what other people think or what the owner thinks. Do what you want to do on your terms and see how the experience is, And
I'm totally going to do that. And I'm excited to do that because I normally don't. I just cater to whoever. I want to please the crowd, and I'm going to do songs that they know and like. But, if there's a song that I really don't want to do, I'm just going to tell them I don't know it.
Yeah.
Instead, I would do it anyway, normally. But, and then the night goes by and I've maybe done 3 or 4 songs that I actually really enjoy. And then, but I think that people don't feel that good energy because I'm obviously not happy.
That's right.
And I like your way of saying, that, it's important for me to be happy, to put that energy into the world and quit commiserating on what happened or what's going to happen. Or if I could just be in the moment and just go with the flow and accept things as they come, I think I could be joyful. But, my husband's told me for years, he's like, Lissa, I don't think you've ever been happy. I'm like, what are you talking about? I've never been happy. But he's just a naturally happy person. He knows himself very well. In how he is. And so I'm working on it though. And thanks to the meditation and working with Corrine and listening to podcasts, reading books, and, just every day I wake up and I just try again to be more in the moment and to be more open-minded. I mean, Corrine sometimes says things to me that just like shock me. And I'm just like, well, what was, how could I have even thought that? She just brings me back down to earth. And I really appreciate that. And I need that help. So I think
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think Sean would be a great coach. So.
Oh, thanks, man. I think a lot of it is just bringing your own experiences. I've been afraid of it for a long time. Large part because of a title, because not wanting to project a knowingness above anybody else's knowingness. There's just been a lot of fear around that, and I think a lot of that's dissipated through this podcast because I feel the very same way, kind of just in life as you kind of expressed about being on stage. It's like, well, I'll put who I am authentically down to appease my idea of what they think or what I think they want. I played shows for a long time. I toured for 6-7 years, and I feel like I experienced the same thing where I wasn't being authentic, so the show wasn't really all that genuine. It wasn't until the very last show I ever played that I felt authentic, because it was 3 days after I left the project of 10 years, and it didn't matter.
Right. There was no attachment to that.
None. And
no expectations.
It was amazing. And I crushed it, and I let go of everything because I had already let go of everything. I already said goodbye. And then ensued about 2 years of regret of, touring like that. And so, anyways, to the point about, I guess coaching, it's hard. It's been hard for me to be present in the moment. And I've struggled to find a sense of calm in whatever comes out of this filter, in every present moment. And that's a large part because of an amazing support system that I've had at Ivy House. A lot of these conversations Corinne and I have had in the podcast, after the podcast, I've had a lot of great people to help guide me and also value that internal space in me when I wasn't valuing it. You know, that's the other thing is when you show up as is in that moment, you're honoring everybody else's space that exists within them. That's the best thing we can do for each other. So it does in the beginning intellectually seem like we're being selfish, but by showing up in the present moment when you go play the show, letting it come out of you, letting awareness beam through the filter that is Lissa, when you do that, it honors that same mechanism in every single person that's in that audience, whether it's 1, 10, 100, it doesn't matter. That's what people feel. That's the air. That's the lightness. That's the space in between space that we really communicate on deeper levels with. If you can surrender to that process, it's going to be amazing for everybody.
Yeah. Joy and happiness are infectious. When you come to meet a person who's naturally joyful and happy, doesn't it make you feel naturally joyful and happy? Have you ever had that experience? Yeah.
Yeah, and it makes me want to have what they have.
Right. And so if you show up to sing naturally joyful and happy doing what you want to do, that's what's people are going to be attracted to. That's what Sean's talking about. And that's what we're talking about. And that's showing up in an overflowing abundance instead of showing up in lack of, oh, I want to play this for you so you'll like me. You see the difference?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you told me that story, Sean, because I'll be thinking about that all night on Friday night about, just going, how you had to wait till the very end and then you were able to experience that. And that's how I want all the rest of my shows to be, because if they're not, I don't want to do them. I don't know if it was Corrine or somebody said that it's probably a blessing that I never was successful, because I don't know if I could have ever handled it actually, to be successful in a big, huge way, And of course I'm listening to Jules' book right now, and it's just like, God, I would never have wanted to do what she was doing. Cause I'm like you, Sean, I've never really suffered. I haven't even had people in my life suffered except in my own mind and doing, my choices. But I've barely had anybody die in my life, and I've got other friends that have had such tragedies and have risen above all that stuff. So anyway, I don't know what I was talking about that, but I'm excited to do stuff from now on that makes me joyful. And if it doesn't make me joyful, then I'm just not going to do it. There's got to be another way. There's a lot of other choices. There's a lot of other things, a lot of other ways to make money, a lot of, other stuff.
Yeah. I might suggest changing that to, instead of doing something that makes you feel joyful, doing whatever you do joyfully.
Okay, that sounds good.
Inviting that joyfulness into your life, because you said that when you meet somebody that's just seems naturally joyful, you don't know that they're naturally joyful. That's just your experience. The only thing, and then you said, it makes me want to be or have what they have. The only reason you don't have that is because you're convinced by a lie that you're not a joyful person. You're convinced by a lie that you keep telling yourself that you're not a joyful person. But that's not true.
Because we're all joyful.
Yeah. Unlimited and unconditionally fulfilled. Unlimited and unconditionally fulfilled.
Yes.
That is who we all are without doing anything. When we take our first breath, that is the essence of who we are and what is looking out of our eyes. So anytime we think anything is going to bring us happiness. It's not. It's all temporary. Temporary things bring us temporary happiness. That which is in us and looking outside of our eyes, that screen of consciousness that's been there since we were little. It's been there for 5 years, for 1 year, for 1 minute. That is unlimited and unconditionally fulfilled.
And completely accessible at all times.
At all times. And when you show up when all the conditioning and expectations, then you're able to tap into it a little. That's what gets covered up, is all the conditions and belief systems and expectations and fears covers it up like the clouds in the sky. So when you show up with an open heart, present to meet the people there, present, just present without your fear. When you walk in that door, you leave your fears and expectations at the door.
Right. So instead of thinking, I want to make myself joyful, I just want to be joyful.
You don't even have to think that. You just have to just not think.
Yeah. Right. Just be present.
Just be present.
Right.
It's why I've always had a bit of a difficult time with positive thinking and positive affirmations, even though I like a good bumper sticker next to, just like, that bottom of my email is happiness is an inside job. I like bumper stickers and all that. But positive affirmations is like cleaning off the desktop. It's like putting things in folders. They're still there. But what we do when we show up in presence, it's like showing up with a brand new hard drive every day. Brand spanking new, $4,000 hard drive, clean. You can put just pure potentiality.
Yeah, just focus and invite that awareness into every moment, man. That's the biggest gift we can do for ourselves, and that's the biggest gift we can give to everybody else. It's invite awareness now. Be in awareness now.
Right. I'm working on it.
Oh, who isn't, man?
How are you doing with it?
Pretty consistent lately.
That's great.
Lately, I have some pretty sticky things financially that I'm like I'm the last. Well, I say the last. Who knows how many these little mechanisms are? But I'm not struggling with them. I'm noticing them and I'm letting them go. They just keep coming in and I keep letting them go. And the stickier ones seem to stick around a little bit longer, but it's been good. It's been a rough 4 years. We've had a long 4 years of moving from Nashville to Wisconsin, building. I came back to my hometown. So I went to Nashville. I lived in Nashville for 12 years, came back to my hometown and allowed all of those old familial patterns to come to the forefront. That's been super exciting, as Corrine knows. And, I've been very, I had been very present in some of my family life. So it's been tough, at times. It's been tough showing up with that awareness. And I think to come back to the point of having a great community around you, is this podcast has been incredibly helpful in creating a much more consistent pattern of being in that awareness, and then inviting other guests and seeing how many other people there are, at different degrees of practice and awareness. And it's given me a lot of inspiration to know that exists within me at all times. And the more I stay close to that awareness, the more it doesn't matter whether or not there's a good or bad day. I'll say that.
Right on. Very cool.
But my wife drives me crazy and my kids, make me lose my mind, and it is what it is. Great teacher.
But at least you can, calm yourself down and not, have to, I don't know, go to any extremes perhaps to
Oh yeah.
you know,
Oh yeah. No,
avoid it.
no, I've never struggled with substance abuse. Eating was always my addiction. If I see chocolate chip cookies, man, I'm eating the whole damn pan. So I usually don't have substance abuse issues, but it's big in my family. So I've always had to be kind of vigilant on, making sure I don't, turn to something else to try to fulfill something that is already fulfilled.
I think food is a lot of kids use food. I used food. I used to sneak food, hide food. I have 8 brothers and sisters. So, and then when I turned 15, my mom stopped cooking, and she's like, "I'm not cooking for you guys. You don't appreciate it." So I lived on frozen burritos, and I ate an entire cheesecake one time, and I was so sick, and everybody just laughed at me. It's like, what's wrong with that kid? Why did she eat an entire cheesecake? What was wrong with me that I felt that I needed to eat an entire cheesecake? And then it kind of progressed into other things later on. But yeah, that was just, I think we start self-medicating with food first if we're going to be self-medicators.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, one of the biggest addictions on the planet is for everybody is thoughts.
That's what I was just going to say. Thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it truly is. We worship our thinking. We're addicted to our thinking. We believe our thinking. It is a problem. So our mission is to help what we can bring awareness to that by sharing our stories authentically. And I think we did that today. Lissa, thank you so much for showing up last minute. Had a brainstorm last minute. Being open is so great to see you and have you on.
Thank you. Thanks. It was so nice to meet you, Sean.
Oh, it's nice to meet you. I'm going to send us your links and whatever. I'd love to check out your music, and
Okay.
I'm very comfortable listening to old music, knowing where you're kind of coming from now. I won't create an identity of who you are based on your past music, but I'd love to hear how that goes, and I'd love to hear from Corrine how Friday night goes and how these other shows go, and see how you do inviting some of that awareness into that. That'll be fun. Be new life, right?
What?
It'll be a new life for you.
Well, it would be. Yeah, totally. And when you listen to my music, it's all very overproduced. And that's never what I ever wanted or ever saw myself as. I was just very acoustic, very raw. But I kept thinking, if I just put this on it, it's going to sound better. And if I just put this on it, it's sound better. And that's to the point where I was taking this little piece out of this vocal. And, I lost something. I've lost something that I had when I was first starting out. And I was writing and stuff like that, so anyway, it'll be interesting to see. And maybe this isn't, I was telling myself today, I have to accept the fact that this might not be my path now.
Yeah.
This might not be how I'm going to spread joy, because that's what I'm going to think now is I'm going to think about being joyful instead of making myself joyful. See, there I go again, making myself joyful. It's all about me.
You are joyful already. Sean had a great distinction there.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much for talking to me and offering to help me with stuff. And it was really fun.
Hell yeah, man.
Do this anytime.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you. Good night.
Okay. Thank you. Good night.
Take care.